I thought I was going insane. The late nights. The distant glances. The sudden bursts of laughter from the other room with no one there. I blamed stress. Work. Her hormones. I never expected the man helping her feel better was the one breaking us apart. Amanda had always been a force of nature. Stunning in that effortless way with a laugh that could make a priest reconsider his vows. We'd been married for 8 years. Good years, mostly. Some hard ones too, especially after her anxiety hit hard last winter. She started therapy. Medication. I supported it, of course I did. Anything to help her feel like herself again. That's how Dr. Lucas Kane came into our lives. He was her psychiatrist. Mid-40s, polished, charming in that doctor knows best way. Expensive watch. 2 white teeth. He made her laugh. Too much. At first, I was just grateful she was opening up to someone. But then, she started dressing differently before appointments. Lipstick. Heels. Perfume. I asked once, half joking, trying to impress the doc. She laughed. Too hard. Don't be jealous, babe. He's literally helping me survive. And I believed her. God help me, I believed her. But then came the missed calls. The sessions that ran late. The emotional distance that widened each week like someone driving further and further away, not looking back. One night, I saw a text on her phone. From LK. I can't stop thinking about today. The way you looked, the way you moaned. My stomach dropped. My world tilted. This wasn't therapy. This wasn't healing. This was betrayal, clinical, calculated, cruel. And I wasn't about to let it continue. I didn't confront her right away. I couldn't. My hands were shaking and my chest felt like someone had wrapped barbed wire around it and kept pulling tighter every second. Instead, I just stared at the message. Reread it. Memorized it. It felt like swallowing glass, slow, jagged, irreversible. She was in the shower when I saw it, humming some tune like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't just torn through the fabric of our life like it was nothing but tissue paper. I stood there in the kitchen, phone still in my hand, listening to the water run. My brain was a storm of images, her on the therapy couch, her hand in his, her body against his. I wanted to vomit. But more than that, I wanted to know everything. Every detail. Every lie she told me. Every time she looked me in the eye and said, I love you, while planning her next appointment with him, not to talk, but to touch, to moan, to cheat. That night, I acted normal. I kissed her forehead. I asked how her day was. I watched her lie. Watched the way her eyes didn't quite meet mine. I realized I had become a stranger in my own home, a background character in her new story. Over the next week, I turned into something I never thought I'd become, a spy in my own marriage. I went through phone records. Found long calls to an unknown number always on Tuesdays and Fridays late at night. I checked her calendar. Therapy, 6:30 p.m. Except one of those days I drove to Dr. Kane's office. Parked across the street. Waited. She never showed up. But the next morning I found a receipt in her purse. Dinner for 2. A fancy rooftop bar downtown. Wine. Dessert. 2 entrees. A charge on her credit card at 7:18 p.m. Therapy, huh? My heart was a furnace. Not of rage, not yet, but of clarity. The kind that burns through denial like fire through dry wood. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't insecure. I was betrayed. Plain and brutal. I needed proof. Real proof. Something undeniable. So I set a trap. I told her I'd be working late the following Friday. Told her I had a team dinner. She smiled a little too quickly. Said, oh, that's fine. I'll just have a quiet night at home. I nodded. Kissed her cheek. Left. Then I doubled back an hour later. I parked a block away. Walked up the alley behind our house. Slipped in through the side gate like a damn thief. My own heartbeat was thunder in my ears. I crept toward the back patio, the curtains were open just enough. And there he was. Dr. Lucas Kane. On my couch. Glass of wine in hand. Shoes off. And Amanda curled up next to him like they were in some twisted rom-com. She wasn't just cheating. She was comfortable doing it. Right there in our home. In the place we made memories, made promises, made love. Now she was giving all that to him, wrapped in a blanket that used to be ours, sipping wine I had bought. I felt something in me fracture. A clean, cold break. But I didn't barge in. Not yet. Because what I had planned would hurt them both much more than a screaming match ever could. I didn't sleep that night. Not a second. I just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling while she curled up next to me like everything was fine, like her body hadn't just been wrapped around someone else's hours earlier. I could still smell his cologne on the throw blanket she'd draped over the back of the couch, a scent I didn't recognize until that night, one that now made my skin crawl. She breathed slow, deep, innocent breaths, and all I could think about was how she had made love to him and then come home to me as if nothing had happened. The sheer audacity of it. The psychological violence of her calmness. I wasn't sure if I wanted to scream or disappear, but I knew I couldn't act on impulse. That was what they expected. A furious husband, some broken man falling apart. No. I would be precise. I would be deliberate. I would make sure that when I confronted them, it wouldn't just be a moment, it would be a reckoning. First, I documented everything. I took photos of the wine glasses, the rumpled blanket, the shoes by the door. I screenshotted the messages, the call logs, the receipts. I even bought a small voice recorder and slipped it under the couch cushions the following week, right before another one of her therapy nights. I listened to the recording alone in my car the next day, hands trembling as I heard them laugh, kiss, whisper. I think about you every night when I'm with him, she said. He has no idea, Lucas replied. You're mine now. And that was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped, not with rage, but with a kind of terrifying stillness. I was done hurting. Done wondering. Done pretending this was salvageable. So I made an appointment. With his office. I called from a different number, used a fake name, told the receptionist I was a new patient interested in seeing Dr. Kane for anxiety and insomnia. She offered me a slot Friday afternoon. Right before Amanda's regular time. Perfect. I showed up early, sat in the waiting room and watched him walk past me without a flicker of recognition. He was shorter than I expected. Thinner. The kind of man who wielded his title like a weapon because he knew without it he was nothing special. He had a confident swagger, yes, but I could see through it now, see the ego, the entitlement, the arrogance that let him cross lines and feel no guilt. When it was my turn, I followed him into the office. Sat across from him. Let him do his introduction, that soft, soothing voice, the compassionate tone. All of it felt rehearsed. Like a magician repeating the same tired trick. And then I dropped it. My name. My wife's name. The date and time of their first session. At first, he blinked. Confused. Then, realization. Panic. He shifted in his chair. Tried to regain control of the conversation. You don't understand, No, you don't understand, I cut him off. You crossed a line. You exploited her. You violated every ethical boundary in your profession. He tried to defend it. Said they had developed feelings naturally. That Amanda had been emotionally neglected by me. That their relationship had evolved organically. I laughed. Cold and hollow. You think this is love? I asked. It's not. It's dependency. It's less wearing a lab coat. And then I slid the folder across his desk. All the evidence. Photos. Messages. Audio transcripts. If you don't resign, I said, this goes to the state board, your hospital, and your wife, assuming she still exists. His face turned pale. He opened the folder, glanced at one photo, and closed it quickly. He didn't speak. He knew I had him. I stood up. You can keep pretending you're a healer, I said, but deep down, you know what you are. A predator in a white coat. And then I walked out. But the real confrontation, the one I dreaded and craved, was still waiting at home. Amanda had no idea what was coming. That evening, I came home to the familiar scent of roasted chicken and rosemary. She was setting the table, humming to herself, a glass of wine already half empty in her hand. The picture of domestic warmth. A lie wrapped in comfort. A performance. I watched her from the doorway for a moment longer than usual, memorizing her movements. She turned and smiled when she saw me, and that smile, that effortless ease, nearly knocked the wind out of me. Because I knew what it was hiding. I knew whose lips had touched hers just a week earlier. And I was no longer a spectator. Tonight, I would be the one turning the page. Hey, babe, she said casually, wiping her hands on a towel. You're home early. I wrapped up the meeting quickly, I replied, my voice calm, measured. We sat down to eat. I let her talk. About her day. About her new yoga instructor. About how her mother was being too dramatic again. All the while, I nodded, chewed, pretended. But inside, I was rehearsing. Not a fight. Not a plea. A revelation. When dinner was done and she began to clear the plates, I leaned back in my chair and said it, soft but deliberate, how long have you been sleeping with Dr. Kane? The clatter of ceramic against tile shattered the silence. A plate slipped from her hand and cracked in half on the floor. What? Her voice rose, high-pitched and shaky. I didn't move. You heard me. She stared at me, face pale, lips parted. But no words came. Just the widening of her eyes. Not in disbelief, but in recognition. She knew I knew, and she knew the game was over. She started, then stopped, swallowed. It wasn't supposed to happen. That sentence. That useless, pathetic sentence. Like it was an accident. Like he tripped and fell into her. How long? I repeated. 6 months, she whispered. 6 months. I exhaled slowly, absorbing the number like a punch to the chest. Half a year. Of lies. Of excuses. Of carefully orchestrated deception. Of therapy appointments that were just appointments with her new addiction. Why? I asked, not because I expected honesty, but because I needed to hear the fiction she'd tell herself. She sat down across from me, suddenly looking very small. I felt seen, she said. With him, I felt heard. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so cliché, so disgustingly textbook. I saw you too, Amanda, I said. Every day. I stood by you when you couldn't get out of bed. I cooked for you, worked double shifts, paid for every goddamn session. I saw you when you couldn't even look at yourself. She wiped a tear, but I didn't move to comfort her. Not this time. You don't understand, she said, voice cracking. It was never about sex. It was about control. I cut in. It was about someone worshipping you. Someone new. Someone you didn't have to share a mortgage or a laundry basket with. She looked down, ashamed. Or maybe just caught. I stood up. I spoke to him today, I said. He won't be practicing anymore. Her head snapped up. What? You didn't. I did, I interrupted. And I will do more if I have to. She rose from her chair too, panic rising in her chest. You don't get it, you're ruining. I'm ruining? I said, my voice sharp now. No, Amanda. You ruined it. You ruined us. For what? A thrill? A man with a prescription pad and a savior complex. She had no answer. Only tears. And for once, I didn't feel sorry. I picked up my keys. I'm going to a hotel, I said. Don't call me. Don't follow. And don't expect this to blow over. This isn't just a betrayal. It's a burial. And then I walked out into the cool night air, free for the first time in months, and grieving not just a marriage, but the illusion of who I thought she was. The hotel room was cold, even with the heater buzzing low in the corner. I didn't bother unpacking. I sat on the edge of the bed in my dress shirt and slacks, staring at the beige wall like it held some kind of answer. There were no answers here. Just silence. Clean, suffocating silence that no longer smelled like her shampoo or her lies. For the first time in months, I wasn't surrounded by her things, her moods, her perfume lingering in the hallway. And yet, she was everywhere in my mind, in the folds of my thoughts. I hated that. I hated that even in escape, she was still inside me. I didn't cry. Not that night. I thought maybe I would. That there'd be some grand collapse, some wave of sorrow crashing down. But no, it was emptier than that. A hollow ache, like walking through the burnt remains of a house and realizing it's not the fire that breaks you. It's the silence afterward. The fact that it's over, and nothing is left standing. She texted the next morning. Just one word. Please. I didn't respond. Couldn't. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I didn't trust myself not to spiral. Her voice, even just in text, had a way of unmaking my resolve. And I couldn't let that happen. Not now. I had made my move. Now I needed to make sense of the wreckage. Later that day, I called a divorce lawyer. Not because I was ready, but because I had to know what that road looked like. What came next, after the betrayal, after the confrontation. It felt surreal. Saying the words "my wife cheated" out loud to a stranger. Like I was admitting a failure, even though I knew I wasn't the one who failed. In the days that followed, Amanda kept reaching out. She sent long emails, voicemails, her voice, trembling, full of regret. She said she made a mistake, that it was a breakdown, not a betrayal, that she still loved me, that she wanted to fix it. But what she never said, not once, was that she was sorry for how deeply she had violated me. Not just my trust, my reality. She kept framing it like it was a moment of weakness, a lapse in judgment. But that wasn't the truth. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was months of calculated lying, gaslighting, sneaking around, covering tracks. It wasn't weakness. It was cruelty disguised as need. And Dr. Kane, he had disappeared. Word got around fast. I never had to make good on my threat to report him. He resigned the following week. Personal reasons. His practice quietly shuttered. A friend of mine in healthcare told me it was a mutual parting. No scandal. No headlines. Just a man quietly slipping away from consequences. It wasn't enough. But it was something. I began therapy of my own. Real therapy? Not with someone like him, but with a woman who didn't try to fix me, just helped me see. She didn't offer cliches. She offered questions. Hard ones. And eventually, I stopped blaming myself. I stopped wondering what I did wrong. Because in truth, I showed up. I gave love. Patience. Loyalty. I wasn't perfect, but I was there. Amanda had chosen to step outside of our marriage, not because I was absent, but because something inside her was starving and she refused to feed it the honest way, with vulnerability, with work, with humility. She wanted escape. And he gave it to her. But what they didn't expect was that I would escape too. And I wasn't going back. Weeks passed. Life somehow kept moving slowly, mechanically, like gears grinding through rust. I returned to work, though my mind still floated somewhere else half the time. My coworkers didn't ask questions, but I caught their glances. That subtle shift in energy when someone's world is clearly unraveling and no one knows whether to offer comfort or distance. I appreciated the silence more than the sympathy. I didn't want to explain. I didn't want to be the man whose wife slept with her doctor. I didn't want pity. I wanted anonymity, the luxury of healing in private. Amanda, however, refused to let me disappear. Her messages changed tone week by week. First came the remorse. Then came anger. Then desperation. She wrote pages about her emotional fragility, how it was never about him, how she still saw a future for us. Each message was a dagger wrapped in silk. And in every one, she managed to talk more about her pain than mine. About how she couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't breathe without me. And maybe that was true. But it wasn't enough. One night, she showed up at the hotel. I don't know how she found out where I was staying, maybe she followed me, maybe she guessed, but when I opened the door, there she stood, makeup smudged, eyes bloodshot, trembling with whatever cocktail of guilt and panic was running through her. "Please," she said. Her voice cracked. "Just talk to me." I didn't slam the door, though I wanted to. I stepped aside. Not out of love. Out of a need to end it once and for all. She walked in slowly, like someone stepping into a church after years away. She looked around the room, barren, impersonal, and winced as if seeing the consequences of her choices etched into every inch of that dull hotel carpet. "I miss you," she said softly. "I don't doubt that," I replied. She sat on the edge of the bed where I'd sat that first night, broken and numb. Now she was the one in pieces. I watched her face, the way her eyes flicked to mine and then away, like she couldn't bear the weight of what she'd done. "I was lost," she whispered. "I was in pain and he—" "No," I interrupted. "Stop protecting him. Stop pretending he was anything but a selfish, opportunistic man who saw an opening and exploited it." She didn't argue. For once. "I want to fix this," she said. "I want to go to counseling. I want to rebuild." I shook my head, not out of anger, but out of a deep, settled sadness. "There's no rebuilding what we had," I said. "Because you didn't just cheat. You invited someone into our marriage, into our most vulnerable space. You let him touch parts of you that were meant to be sacred between us. You didn't just betray me. You replaced me." She covered her mouth with her hand, her shoulders shaking. "I know," she said through tears. "I hate myself for it." And maybe she did. But that didn't change anything. "I forgive you," I said at last. Her eyes lit up, hopeful. Too hopeful. "But that doesn't mean I'll take you back. Forgiveness is about me now, not you." She sat still for a long time. Then she nodded. That was the last time we spoke face to face. She left quietly. No dramatic scene. Just the sound of the door clicking shut behind her and the weight of a chapter closing. After Amanda left that night, a strange calm settled over me. Not peace, not yet, but stillness. Like the eye of a storm. For the first time in months, there were no more secrets to uncover, no more confessions to force. Everything had been said. The wreckage lay fully exposed, every splintered truth sharp and undeniable. And in that clarity, I realized something even more painful than the betrayal itself. I had lost not just a partner, but a version of myself I could never return to. The man who believed love was enough. The man who thought loyalty guaranteed safety. He was gone now. I went through the motions for a while. Woke up. Drank black coffee. Went to work. Ate dinner alone. Answered no calls. Nights were the hardest, not because I missed her warmth, but because the absence echoed louder when the world got quiet. In those hours, I wasn't angry. I was simply hollow. Like someone who had survived a fire and kept walking, not realizing they were still smoldering inside. Divorce papers came. She didn't contest. There was nothing left to fight for, no property battles, no custody wars, no shared dreams still alive to protect. Just names on a page, signatures at the bottom. Legal confirmation of what had already spiritually died months before. My therapist asked me one day, what would justice look like to you? I didn't have an answer at first. I thought maybe justice would be her heartbreaking the way mine did. Maybe it would be him losing his license, his status, his pride. Maybe it would be some cosmic rebalancing where their affair turned into a disaster of its own. But the more I sat with that question, the more I realized justice wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. About choosing to stop letting their choices define my every breath. So I started doing small things for myself. Cooking meals I liked, not the ones we used to agree on. Changing the furniture in my new apartment, refusing to replicate anything from the house we shared. I even bought new sheets, not because the old ones were dirty, but because they carried the weight of too many mornings waking up next to someone who had already checked out. And I began talking. Not just in therapy, but with friends. Really talking. I told the truth, not the polished version, not the one that makes others comfortable. I said, my wife cheated on me with her doctor, and I let the words hang in the air. Let them land. Let them sting. Because only by owning it could I begin to release it. I started writing too, not with any goal, but just to get the poison out. Some nights I'd fill whole pages with things I never said to her. Things I never said to him. Things I never admitted to myself. I didn't need revenge. I needed release. And slowly, like light creeping under a door, something began to return. Not hope, not yet. But presence. I could walk outside and notice the sky again. I could hear music and not feel crushed by nostalgia. I could breathe without flinching. I wasn't healed. But I was healing. And that, I realized, was more powerful than any apology could ever be. There's a peculiar kind of grief that comes not from death, but from watching something once alive wither in front of you, a love, a marriage, a future imagined in vivid color, now reduced to a muted gray. In the months following our divorce, I kept discovering pieces of her in the most unexpected places, a strand of her hair caught in the lining of an old coat, a song playing in a coffee shop that she once danced to in our kitchen, a handwritten grocery list buried in the pages of a cookbook we used to use together. These fragments weren't loud. They didn't scream. They whispered reminders that healing isn't a straight path and some ghosts don't haunt, they linger. I had to learn how to live without her shadow. To rewire routines. Mornings felt foreign at first. There were no shared rituals anymore, no coffee cups side by side, no casual brush of shoulders in the bathroom mirror. But with time, that emptiness became space. Space to breathe, space to exist on my own terms without explanation or compromise. I filled it slowly. A new lamp. A different kind of toothpaste. A plant I never would have bought when we were together because she said she hated succulents. Every small change was a quiet declaration, I am not who I was when I loved her. Sometimes people asked me if I regretted marrying her. If, knowing how it would end, I would still have chosen her. And the truth is yes. I would have. Because for a while, it was real. For a while, I was happy. And even if she chose to betray that, to twist something sacred into something selfish, I still showed up with honesty. I still meant every vow, every late-night conversation, every touch. My integrity remained intact even when the marriage didn't. I heard through mutual friends that she wasn't seeing him anymore. That it had ended shortly after our confrontation. No surprise there. Their affair was never built to last. It was a secret, and secrets don't thrive in daylight. I didn't feel satisfaction when I heard it. No smug vindication. Just a quiet nod from somewhere deep inside. It was over. All of it. And they both had to live with what they'd done. As for me, I started dating again, cautiously. It was strange at first, learning someone new, letting someone learn me. I wasn't looking for a replacement. I wasn't looking for rescue. I was looking for connection, something honest, something slow, something rooted in mutual respect. I was honest about my past. Some women backed away. Others leaned in. I wasn't bitter about it. People are allowed to choose the kind of baggage they want to carry. One night, I sat across from a woman at a quiet jazz bar, her eyes kind, her laugh unforced, and I realized something. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't clinging to anger or shame or fear of repeating old wounds. I was present. Open. And that, perhaps more than anything, felt like a victory. Because healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without breaking. And I was learning slowly how to remember. There's a moment, months after the wreckage, when you finally catch your reflection in the mirror and realize you've changed. Not in the obvious ways, not the wrinkles from sleepless nights or the faint hollowness in your eyes, but in something quieter, deeper. A kind of internal realignment. I remember the first time I noticed it. I was buttoning a shirt before a job interview, tying my tie the way she used to do for me, and I caught a glimpse of myself. The man staring back wasn't the same one who once begged for honesty, who once waited by the door for a woman already lost to someone else. He looked steadier. Not healed entirely, no, scars don't vanish, but grounded. Forged in fire and still standing. That job interview, by the way, turned into an offer. A better position in a different city. It felt like life whispering, start again. I packed my things slowly. There was no rush. Each box I filled was like a quiet release. I threw away what no longer served me, not just items, but memories. That sweatshirt she used to steal. The wine glasses we bought on our honeymoon. A photo frame with no photo inside. I donated most of it. Let it find new purpose elsewhere. I wanted to walk into this next chapter carrying only what was mine. Moving day came. I stood in the doorway of my apartment one last time, hands in my pockets, and let the silence wash over me. No ghosts remained. I had faced them all. Named them. And left them behind. In the new city, everything felt unfamiliar in the best way. New streets. New cafes. A different skyline out the window each morning. I allowed myself to rediscover life on my terms. I started running again. Joined a book club. Even took a cooking class, though I still managed to burn rice. There was something liberating in the clumsiness of it all. I wasn't trying to rebuild my old life. I was building something new. Amanda reached out once more. Months later. A long email this time. She said she understood why I walked away. She said she respected my silence. She didn't ask for another chance, just closure. She said she hoped I was well, that I found peace. For a moment I hovered over the reply button. There was a time I would have poured out pages of emotion, demanded answers, dissected every line of her apology. But not now. I simply archived it. Not out of cruelty, but clarity. Some doors, once closed, need to stay closed. Because the real closure doesn't come from the person who hurt you. It comes from within, when you realize their betrayal no longer defines your worth. I had stopped being the man she cheated on. I had become the man who rose anyway. And that was a title I could carry with pride. Time, I've learned, doesn't heal all wounds. It doesn't erase memories or sand down every edge of pain. But what it does, if you let it, is give you distance. Space enough to breathe differently. To see the shape of the wound for what it is, not a permanent disfigurement, but a mark of survival. A place where something broke and then didn't destroy you. A year has passed since I left Amanda. And in that time I've stopped counting how long it's been since her last message or how many days I've gone without thinking of her. Because thoughts still come, sometimes uninvited, like shadows cast at dusk, but they no longer drag me under. They float in and then they float away. I allow them. I don't fight them. That's part of healing too, not pretending it never happened, but refusing to let it define who you are now. There's a woman in my life. Her name is Claire. She's thoughtful. Steady. She asks questions that matter and listens without waiting to speak. I haven't told her everything yet, not all the bruises or the depth of the betrayal, but I've told her enough. Enough for her to understand why I sometimes pull back, why I sometimes take longer to trust. And she doesn't rush me. That more than anything has taught me what real love might look like, not fireworks, not obsession, but patience. I don't believe everything happens for a reason. Some things just happen. People make choices. People betray. People hurt each other in ways they can't undo. But I do believe in what we do with that pain. How we carry it. How we let it carve us into something new. Amanda taught me that love alone isn't enough. That loyalty can be one-sided. That even the people who swear they'd never hurt you might someday hold the knife. But through her betrayal, I found something unexpected, a kind of resilience I didn't know I had. A strength that comes not from vengeance, but from walking away. From refusing to make a home inside a lie. Sometimes I wonder if she ever thinks about me. Not with guilt, but with honesty. I wonder if she sees now what she traded away. But then I remember it doesn't matter. Her remorse, her regret, her lessons learned, none of that belongs to me anymore. That's her weight to carry. Not mine. My burden has changed. I carry light now. Not because the past didn't happen, but because I've chosen not to live in it. Because what I lost in betrayal, I regained in self-respect. In clarity. In peace. And that in the end is the greatest revenge of all. To be okay. Truly, quietly, honestly okay.